Is this the one that changes on its own? I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Hey everybody, what's going on here? Harley Q here with another video. This one is just a favorite games for the Sony PlayStation. I'm doing this because I haven't really done one of these in a while, and I have some pretty good titles. As I'm looking through them, they kind of reflect how old I was at the time, because some of them are definitely weird. But anyway, let's just kind of jump in. I'll kind of share some of the titles that I have. Some of them are kind of obvious. There are so many good games for the PlayStation. I've mentioned this when I did my PlayStation 2 video. Sony's an interesting company to look at because they were so creative with their games. They did a bunch of different types of games, and I think that's super awesome. With certain systems, you have certain things that come up with them. For example, Nintendo is generally the family-friendly system. You're not necessarily going to have spooky games for any Nintendo system. That's not entirely true, but for the most part, you generally will not see any spooky games or horror-based games on a Nintendo system. At least not as much as you would, say, on the PlayStation or the Xbox. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to jump through. These are in no particular order. I have a huge stack here. Some of these I have mentioned on the channel. Some of these I actually got while doing my monthly pickup collections, and some of them have just kind of been replaced over time. I'm actually going to save this one for last because it's my favorite one of all time, and it has such a cute memory, and I'm going to do a whole video on it, and if you've seen my channel, you probably already know what game it is. We're going to start with kind of an odd one. We're going to start with Namco Museum. Now, I didn't actually own this one. This was one that I had purchased. I believe I put this in my Amazon video. I actually did end up buying this one off of Amazon. I got a really good price on it. And I remember as a kid, my babysitter's son had the whole Namco line because, you know, each one represents a letter from the name Namco. And my favorite was always the M one. I specifically remember that because it had the whole Miss Pac-Man level. And you got to walk around the Namco Museum, and it was a literal museum that you walked around. And my favorite room was the Miss Pac-Man room. And, well, yeah, Miss Pac-Man, I would just spend so much time running around Miss Pac-Man. And to me, this has, like, the best collection of the games. It's got Dig Dog on there, it's got Pac-Man, it's got Galactic, and I can never pronounce that right. But it's got some really awesome, you know, collections. And the Namco, I guess, series, you'd call them, of games for the PlayStation 1 were actually super awesome. So if you haven't had a chance and you can get these cheap, some of them are actually pretty expensive. I buy the greatest hits because I actually own this particular copy. I did replace this. I don't remember what happened to my original one. Yeah, the greatest hits ones tend to be a little cheaper to get than the black label one. And I actually kind of like the cover for the greatest hits one. Ironically, this is one of the few PlayStation titles where the cover changed for the greatest hits. I don't know if that's entirely true, but from my knowledge, there was a huge difference between the title. Yeah, definitely grab one of these if you can. They're super fun to play, especially if you like any kind of arcade compilation, which I've mentioned several times on this channel. I'm like 100% for. I don't know why this one's on here. I know why it's on here, but I don't know why it's on here. Spice World. It was the 90s. And the 90s were an interesting time. This came out in, hold on, let's find out when it came out. This came out in 1998, so it's not a good game at all, and it's like a rhythmy game. It's one of those stupid games. I know how bad it is. I remember it being bad as a kid. I love the Spice Girls because I am a 90s kid, so of course this is going to be on the list. I actually had to repurchase this one. I actually found it at a yard sale. And I don't know what happened to my original copy, but this is the second copy. So people apparently bought this game. And it's such a bad game, but I love it so much, and I'm so happy to have it in the collection. I have no regrets with this one. I have no idea what happened to my cases for these two. So they're in plastic cases. These are the cases I use when I ship out games to people. I don't like to send them in just an envelope. I like to send them in a case and then bubble wrap them. I'm crazy like that. I'm ranting. Fighting Forces. Now, this one's kind of strange because I know there's a second one. I never played the second one. I remember always wanting to play the second one. This is one of those beat-em-up games which is weird because generally I didn't really play too many beat-em-up games, but I loved this one for some reason. It was just so strange, and I loved playing girl characters. I think that's one of the reasons I really loved it, was because in this era of video games, there wasn't a huge selection for female characters, so it was nice to have some female characters. Granted, they were mostly pixelated and you couldn't really see them because they were like this big, but I was like super excited to be able to play a female character. I just remember that being like super awesome. The next one is obviously you can't have a PlayStation 1 collection and not bring up Spyro the Dragon. Now it's crazy because I've literally sold this game like 3 or 4 times and I had no idea that I didn't have the case and manual for it. I must have accidentally sold my case and manual copy, so all I have is the disc for this one. And it's sad and pathetic, and I know, and I'm sorry, but this one is so frequent to find, I can easily just find it somewhere, so I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, Spyro the Dragon. I remember this being one of my mom's favorite games that I would play as a kid. She wasn't really too much into the violent video games, but she loved Spyro the Dragon. She always referred to him as the little purple dragon. So it's just a nice kids game. It's a platformer, and they're so much fun. And in the second one, if I'm correct, oh, yep, I'm looking at it now. In the second one, you could go skateboarding. So, or is it the third one? I forgot the order of these games. In the third one, you can go skateboarding. I knew that. The best part is about these ones is they were recently remastered on the Reignited trilogy, and I have played it. I actually purchased it digitally for my Xbox. I do want to get a physical copy of it for my PlayStation 4, because it just seems wrong to have it on a Xbox system. Definitely Spyro, their games are pretty solid. I didn't really play Spyro games past the PlayStation 1, so I don't even know if I own any Spyro games for the PlayStation 2. But I do own some other Spyro games for like the Wii. I believe I own one for the Xbox. I have a couple of different Spyro games, but these are the ones that I definitely know by heart. I played a lot of the first game and a lot of the third game, Year of the Dragon. I don't really remember. I remember the second game definitely, but like these two, and again, the skateboarding level on this one was just the coolest thing in the world. They're fun. They're great games for little kids, especially if you want to introduce somebody to retro games and you're worried about like how certain things look. I don't know, I think they still look pretty good. Speaking of female characters, I kind of mentioned that before. I think another awesome series that you should be looking into, especially if you're a retro game collector, you have to have these, are your Tomb Raider games. I have all of them. I have almost every single Tomb Raider game that's ever come out. I think the only one I'm missing is Legend, and that's because I can't find my copy of it. Again, as I mentioned several times in the channel, that I have 2 older sisters, and games kind of get shuffled, and I have some of their games, they have some of my games. It's whatever. Yeah, I definitely need to get 1 or 2 more Tomb Raider games. I'm pretty sure I have almost all of them. I have one at least for every single system. I love Tomb Raider. Lara Croft is such an iconic PlayStation character that, you definitely need to play a Tomb Raider game. It's ironic that I mentioned this because most of the games that I'm bringing up are games that have been either remastered or there was a remake of them. Recently, within the last 10 years, there was the Tomb Raider reboot, and those are phenomenal games as well, but, I love my original Tomb Raider. I love being able to run around through the mansion. I love being able to lock the butler away. I love the third one where you get to play as young Lara Croft. I can't tell you how many times I've played through the first one. I could actually beat the first one in a very long time. There used to be a tradition that I used to do that every Valentine's Day I'd play a Tomb Raider game because that's actually Lara Croft's birthday. Pretty lame, but I probably should bring up that tradition again. Maybe I'll do that on stream. You should probably follow me on Twitch, by the way. This one is not that great, though. That's probably, I'll be honest, the Chronicles is not the best Tomb Raider game. But yeah, it's kind of interesting when you look at, I learned about the whole history of Tomb Raider and why certain things are the way they are, and it's actually pretty cool, so. Tomb Raider, definitely highly recommend playing some Tomb Raider games if you get a chance. Since we're talking about super duper lame games, I love this game. There's no reason. I could have picked so many other games to put on this list, And I might even just do another video to cover more games because I have so many other awesome PlayStation 1 games, but this is so stupid. Why? This is the greatest game ever. Okay, maybe not the greatest game, but it's a pretty damn good game. It's so stupid. It's so funny. It's so stupid. Literally, it's basically Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but with scooters. And I remember I remember playing this so much and listening to the music, which obviously I can't play on the channel, but oh man, it was just such a dumb game, and I loved it so much. It was a 2-player game, so I would play with my sisters, and we'd play this game for hours. And I don't know what happened to my original copy. I actually got this one over the summer. So I don't know why I forgot to grab all of the games, but this is just a quick little look. Crash Bandicoot games. Solid games to have for your PlayStation. These are definitely must-haves. My favorite is Crash Bandicoot Warped, and Crash Team Racing. I guess that's why I grabbed them, because there was a lot of Crash Bandicoot games that I had. And I don't have the manual and cover for this, so it's kind of loose like that. Again, I'll eventually replace the case altogether. That's actually not my copy that I originally had. Same thing with this one. I had to repurchase this not that long ago. I repurchased it because my Crash Bandicoot Warped, I've purchased this game like 3 times. I don't know why. Every time this game goes missing, I'm holding on to it for dear life. But yeah, this is my favorite out of all of the Crash games ever. I've have some other Crash games for different systems, but this has always been my favorite. I just love all the innovation they did with this game. It's weird. They have water levels, racing levels, just all the different things, every way that Crash dies. It's such a solid game, and this is another one where it was so good that, and you could say with this too, that they were so good that they decided to remaster them, and now you have those game series that are coming back, and it's nice to see Crash Bandicoot come back with a new game, so it's kind of seeing the whole cycle of video games starting over again. The next game that I have, we're getting near the end, we only have 3 games left after, 2 games after this one, is Tomba. I've mentioned this one several times on the channel. I actually got this from my dad's friend when I was a kid, and it's such a weird game. That's all I remember, being really, really unsure about it, but also loving it to death because it was just that strange. And, you know, just jumping and platforming and the pigs and jumping on them and doing a backflip and how strange it was and all the different short colors and Tomba with his bright pink hair, and he was such a weird character. So, or is it Tomba? Have I been saying Tomba and it's actually Tomba? I thought it was 2 O's. Well, I'm still gonna call it Tomba because it's just been 28 years of me calling it Tomba, so let me do some quick math. It's been a long time me calling it Tomba, so I'm gonna keep calling it Tomba. I'm pretty sure it's called Tomba though. And let's see. Let's do this one. Since we've kind of mentioned remakes and remasters. Obviously, Final Fantasy VII, also another solid game to have in your PlayStation collection. I've mentioned this one several times on the channel. I did not own this one ever as a kid. I played it multiple times. I rented it, usually from game stores, but this copy I got when Reddington and I first started dating. He actually gave this to me because he knew I loved Final Fantasy VII, and he wanted to get me something he knows I love retro video games. I've always loved retro video games, and, you know, he would buy me games from time to time. He's the one who bought me my Dreamcast and my SNES, and obviously multiple copies of my other games that I've needed to replace. So he's awesome, and I still cannot believe he got me a copy of Final Fantasy VII. But yeah, anyway, solid game. Again, they remade it, and I haven't actually played the remake yet. Yeah, I know, I'm pathetic. I really should just play it, or purchase it. But I'm really happy to have this one. It's funny because when I was a teenager, this game was going for like $100. I remember being in upstate New York, and I found a retro game store in a mall that I happened to be in, and they had a copy of this game, and I was gonna purchase it, and the guy said it was like $120, and I remember being so defeated because I wanted this game so bad, And eventually I just gave up and just assumed that that was what the price was always going to be, and I actually forgot about it until Reddington purchased it for me. It's funny because a lot of the game stores that I went to and I looked for this game, they never had a copy of it. I guess because it's such a popular game and it sells almost immediately, clearly because they did a remake of it. So it's awesome, really awesome to have this in my collection. It's just a solid game. It's really, really beautiful, you know. But yay! And the last one I've mentioned several times on this channel. I'm going to do a whole video on it at some point because it's such an underrated game. All the other ones that I've mentioned in here, everyone generally knows about, and even if they don't know about it, they're games that aren't really that exciting, but this one is just such an incredible game. Ironically, since I placed these two together, the story behind me getting this one is I had asked my mother to purchase me this game, and for my birthday she came home with this instead. And I remember being so upset that I didn't get Final Fantasy VII, but I got Guardians Crusade. However, in the long run, it was actually totally worth it because this is probably one of my favorite games of all time. And I say that maybe because of a silly memory of my mom purchasing the wrong game and it actually being a good game, but it's a game that nobody knows about. Yeah, this came out so late in the PlayStation's life cycle, and the comparison of the graphics versus when it was released, a lot of people kind of didn't want to play this game. It was a very underlooked title, but it's, you know, it's such an incredible game. It's so much fun, and I cannot wait to actually dig in and get a review in on this because more people need to know about this game. I love it so much, and like I said, I cannot wait to do a review on this game because it's just so silly. This isn't my original copy. I had to repurchase this one. Again, this was also... I just shattered the whole case. I broke the case. It's okay, the case was already broken. I just kind of put the final nail in the coffin for this one. I actually repurchased this game. I'm gonna like hold it like this. I actually repurchased this game for one of my monthly pickups a couple months ago. I want to say May or June. And I'm so happy. I bought it off of eBay because I couldn't find this in any retro game store. I literally went to 3 or 4 retro game stores looking for it. And I had been searching forever, and I figured it was such an obscure title that I was just gonna have to buy it off eBay. I did save money on it because the case was damaged. I'm happy to have the game. I'm gonna have to buy a new case now. But yeah, totally awesome game. Anyway, that's pretty much the video. These are some of my favorite titles for the original PlayStation. There are so many games that you could talk about when you could talk about the Sony PlayStation. It's incredible. The history behind this console is incredible. It's such a fun system to talk about. It's such a fun system to play and collect for. I have so many other games, so many games that I've gotten recently that I haven't been able to even play yet. There are so many more titles that I could discuss. These are just my favorite. And I have even more. Like, there's so many more. I don't even know. Are there any games in here that you never heard of? Are there games you're surprised that weren't on my list? Maybe they are on my list. I just don't have them. It's funny now that I actually look at the pile of games that I have here, how many of them are actually being remade or remastered or rebooted. It's incredible to see that. Most of mine were actually remade. So, I don't know, it just kind of shows that there's a reason why people love these games. That's the video. Make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to leave a comment below telling me what your favorite PlayStation games are. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Twitch. I don't know why I did that. And I will see you in the next one.